Right on time, Venezuela back in the spotlight. Socialist paradise. We've been spending most our lives living in a socialist paradise. You remember that one? Coolio? Almost said Julio. Coolio. Gangsta's Paradise. How about Jason Forward parody? Socialist Paradise. Zero Hedge is covering this fantastically. Now this country, Venezuela, has like the most massive oil reserves on the face of the earth. How? I say again, how is it even possible that they can't muster up enough money in oil sales to fix their imploding economy? Massive hyperinflation. Starving to death people. Well, Snip, their oil's not $80+ anymore like they were used to. It's now 40 to 50. Yes. And if I'm Venezuela, attention world, attention everybody in the world, we will now proceed to offer oil at $25 a barrel. First come, first serve. All of the world who used to use Saudi Arabia, this one, that one, OPEC, oh, $25 a barrel, yes sir, be right over. You could undercut everybody. If you have the world's largest reserves, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you just do that and undercut all your competition? Done. Problem solved. But no, we're going to just use the New York, NYMEX, New York MEX, that's the actual exchange usually that I think oil is traded on for the most part. COMEX, futures, same difference. Instead of using, what's the price of oil today? No. We're no longer using that. Cool, $25 a barrel. Done. Who wants to come? Oh, I don't know. Every struggling country on the face of the earth. Do you know how much they pay for gas in the EU zone, UK, etc.? It's per liter. And it's like sick. Like, oh my God, sickly high. You don't think they'd love to run over and make a deal with the people of Venezuela and Maduro, the president? Yes, $25 a barrel? Absolutely. And then we'll resell it to our slave population where we make a nice little taxing profit on, but they'll get a great deal on it anyways because it's going to be way cheaper than they're paying now. Win-win situation. Nope. If they did that, the United States and our allies and everybody else, we would be over there bombing the living crap out of Venezuela in 2 shakes of a rattlesnake's tail. Because we don't like competition. Okay? Anyways, country with the world's largest oil reserves runs out of gasoline. Is this even, farmer with most lands full of crops runs out of food? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is this a joke? In a testament to the efficiency of socialism, leftist-run Venezuela has long prided itself on selling its citizens the world's cheapest gasoline. That is, when it had gasoline to sell. They were getting it for pennies. While fuel supplies in the country with the world's largest proven oil reserves have continued flowing despite monetary collapse and hyperinflation, a domestic oil industry in turmoil, and a deepening economic collapse under President Nicolas Maduro, that has left the South American country with scant supplies of many basic necessities that changed last week when Venezuelans faced their first nationwide shortage of motor fuel since an explosion ripped through one of the world's largest refineries 5 years ago. At the time, the government of then-President Hugo Chavez curbed exports to guarantee there was enough fuel at home. This time, however, the problems were all man-made, and the shortage was mainly due to problems at refineries as a mix of plant glitches and maintenance cut fuel production in half. So we got a mix of plant glitches and maintenance has now cut fuel production in half. In the immediate aftermath of the shortage, Venezuela's state oil company, Petrolas de Venezuela, rushed to replenish gasoline supplies in various neighborhoods of Caracas as drivers lined up at filling stations amid a worsening shortage of fuel, while Petróleos de Venezuela or PDVSA. Sounds like a venereal disease. You got PDVSA? Yeah, man. Sorry. Says the situation is normalizing and blamed the lines on transport delays. The opposition says the company has had to reduce costly fuel imports as it tries to preserve cash to pay its foreign debt. The opposition was likely right. According to Bloomberg, tanker trucks were seen in several neighborhoods of the capital city resupplying filling stations after local newspaper El Nacional reported widespread shortages across the country. As the company's crumbling refineries fail to meet domestic demand, imports have become a major drain of cash as the country buys fuel abroad at market prices, only to sell it for pennies per gallon at home, unless, of course, one buys abundant gasoline on the black market, where its cost is in orders of magnitude higher than what one would pay at the gas station. Quote, yesterday I went to 3 filling stations. That's in filling stations. Don't we call those gas stations around here, or our buddies over in Britain, Petro? You got a petrol station? Filling station. Yesterday I went to 3 filling stations and couldn't fill my tank. Freddy Bautista, a 26-year-old student, said in an interview while waiting outside of a gas station in Las Mercedes area of eastern Caracas on Thursday. I've been waiting 30 minutes here, and it seems like I'll be able to fill up here today. But the key reason PDVSA has been reducing the money-losing imports as it prepares for $2 billion in bond payments due next month, said Jose Brito, an opposition lawmaker on the National Assembly's Oil Commission. They're not importing enough because they are saving up to pay the debt, he said in a telephone interview. It is unbelievable that this is happening in an oil-producing country. It gets better. While PDVSA was suddenly unable to keep the domestic market stocked, it had no problem supplying gasoline to its main export partners, such as Cuba and Nicaragua. As Reuters reported, Caracas has continued exporting fuel to political allies and even raised the volume of shipments last month, despite warnings within the government-run company that doing so could trigger a domestic supply crunch. Shipments from refineries to the domestic market needed to be redirected to meet those export commitments, internal documents show. Should this additional volume be exported, it would impact a cargo scheduled for the local market, read one email obtained by Reuters and sent from an official in the company's domestic marketing department to its internal trade unit. Venezuela last month exported 88,000 barrels per day of fuels, equivalent to a fifth of its domestic consumption, to Cuba, Nicaragua, and other countries, according to internal documents seen by Reuters. That was up 22,000 barrels per day on the volumes Venezuela had been shipping to those two countries under accords struck by Chavez to expand his diplomatic clout with lowering their fuel costs through cheap supplies of crude and fuel. The order to increase exports came from PDVSA's top executives, according to internal emails seen by Reuters. Then came the departures. As Reuters adds, the strain on the country's fuel system has been worsened by the quiet departure of staff in PDVSA's trade and supply unit, who are key to ensuring fuel gets to where it is needed and making payments for imports, 3 sources close to the company said. Clearly unconvinced that Venezuela is the socialist paradise shown on brochures, the unit has seen around a dozen key staffers depart since Maduro shook up PDVSA's top management in January. Among those who left was the head of budget and payments. Every week, someone leaves for one reason or another, said a PDVSA source familiar with the unit's operations. Some have been fired, while others have left since the shakeup inserted political and military officials into top positions and bolstered Maduro's grip on the company that powers the nation's economy. So take out the people who work there, who created the company, who own the company. We're now putting in government thugs. Oh, I'm sure they'll run it great. I'm sure they're experts. Now you can see what has just happened. The imposition of leaders with little or no experience in the industry has further disillusioned some of the company's experienced professionals and accelerated an exodus that had already taken hold as economic and social conditions in Venezuela worsened. A recent internal PDVSA report seen by Reuters mentioned a low capacity to retain key personnel. amid salaries of a few dozen dollars a month at the black market rate. Key personnel with salaries of a few dozen dollars per month. Well, $2 would be 24. In silver is 18, not quite 24. So for a couple of ounces of silver, $36. That's three. That's, you could say 3 dozen, right? 2 dozen or 3 dozen. For 2 ounces of silver, that's their salary per month. Key people in that industry. What did I tell you when this was going down? 1 ounce of silver could buy you a considerable amount of food. 1 ounce. 2 ounces is a very key personnel's salary for the month. And if anybody over there had bought silver, or any precious metal for that matter, even Bitcoin, before this crap happened a couple years ago, they would be filthy rich in Venezuelan dollars and being able to buy up all kinds of assets and things, property, rent them out, whatever, for pennies on the dollar. But like most people, they don't pay attention. They don't care about football. Ooh, football. And that's their version of soccer. Football. No, football is, Chicago Bears. That's football. Football, you're referring to something that we call soccer. I want to just clarify that. The vacancies have led to all-out chaos inside the state-run energy company. The departure of staff responsible for paying suppliers, as well as cash crunch in the company and the country, have led to an accumulation of unpaid bills for fuel imports into Venezuela. Had those bills been paid, the supply crunch would have been less acute, company sources said. About 10 tankers are waiting for PDFSA ports in Venezuela, waiting near the ports in the Caribbean to discharge fuel for domestic consumption and for oil blending. Only one vessel bringing fuel imports has been discharged since the beginning of the week, shipping data showed. PDFSA ordered some of the cargoes as it prepared alternative shipments. Alternative shipments or supplies while refineries undergo maintenance. As a result of this cluster F, Venezuela finds itself in a particular bind. While there are millions of gallons of gasoline parked offshore, not to mention some 300 billion barrels of oil underground, they will remain there indefinitely until PDFSA pays for their cargoes. Should the PDFSA pay up to $20 million per cargo, shortages could blow over relatively soon. However, as noted above, it won't, as it is saving every dollar for an upcoming bond payment. PDFSA is preparing for some $2.5 billion in bond payments due next month. Meanwhile, the shortages persist despite calls for calm from PDFSA. Mr. Serrano, Commercial and Supply Vice President at PDFSA, said on Twitter last Wednesday that the company has sufficient supply from its refineries and is working to increase shipments to stabilize distribution after transportation delays led to lines at gasoline stations. I thought they were called filling stations. In 4 states. We call for calm and to resist false rumors from sectors trying to create chaos in the country, he said. I don't think it's a false rumor when you drive to a gas station, they don't have any. You go to a second one, they don't have any. You go to a third one, you're waiting for a half hour, and you think you're going to get it filled. You're going to be able to fill your tank. Don't think that's a rumor, my friend. To be sure, shortages are nothing new in Venezuela. The hunt for gasoline is just the latest headache for consumers after years of severe economic contraction and triple-digit inflation have produced shortages of everything from bread to antibiotics to, of course, now gasoline. Unfortunately, even once the bond payment is made, there is no assurance the flow of gasoline to the domestic market will resume. Venezuela has been forced to increase imports of finished gasoline and components over the past years as its refinery utilization rates declined because of deteriorating infrastructure and underinvestment. The country imported about 75,000 barrels per day of refined products from the U.S. in 2016, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. Why would you, as Venezuela, who keeps saying, the U.S. did this to us, the U.S. did this to us, and Barack Obama put sanctions on Venezuela? How does the U.S. put sanctions on Venezuela and then simultaneously Venezuela is buying gasoline from the U.S.? Somebody tell me how that works. This is insane. How is that even possible? As Bloomberg writes in Caracas, Eastern Sucre, municipality, around 20 cars were lined up outside the gas station trying to fill up. National police in the Las Mercedes part of the city, meanwhile, were trying to prevent lines from forming outside of filling stations there. Outside of Caracas, El Carabalbeno, a newspaper based in the central city of Valencia, reported widespread lines there as well. On Wednesday, Maduro found a way to briefly deflect blame for the ongoing debacle. Venezuela's public prosecutor ordered the arrest of Marco Antonio Malavi, PDVSA's manager of international trade, for supposed wrongdoing related to fuel purchases for the domestic market. Maleve was detained at a Venezuelan military facility, and his bank accounts have been blocked. This attempt to scapegoat failure on one person will resolve nothing. So this guy, you've now locked up, seized his bank accounts, frozen them, and then told the country, I'm doing this because this guy's at fault and I'm going after him. When in reality, he has nothing to do with this, but you desperately need somebody because your days are numbered and you are terrified that the people are going to knock down your palace doors and physically overthrow you. So I must blame it on everybody, but who's at fault? Myself. That has textbook dictatorship. Boy, am I glad I do not live in Venezuela. I don't even want to know what it's like over there. I don't even want to feel any part of that pain. Yet there's lots of people who are, and I do feel terrible for them. What a damn shame. Take care.